Alright, good morning folks, good afternoon, wherever you're from. Thanks for tuning into the developer blog number 20. That's right, it's the big 2-0. We've covered 20 of them. And I think it's important that you always know sort of what you're watching. So for me, if I watch an opinion-based thing, which this kind of show is, you need to know what the, quote, reviewer's opinion is before you give your opinion. Does that make sense? What I mean is, if somebody really, really hates puzzle games and they review a puzzle game and they really, really like it, that gives you a basis to understand, okay, maybe this puzzle game is phenomenal, or maybe it could be the opposite. Maybe it could be a really terrible puzzle game because this guy hates puzzle games and he enjoys this one. This one must be bad. You know, today I'm feeling quite casual. I'm feeling quite laid back. So maybe I might not be as critical on the devs. Maybe I'll get into it and something will really rile me up. And I will. But at the moment, I'll tell you why I'm feeling a bit blasé about it all. Is I've done 20 of these. And I feel like the game is where the game's going to be. I feel like it's smooth. It's nice. There's some new car mines coming to the game. There's new content. There's a few little bits splashed here and there, isn't like a Gnasher free-for-all. There's a couple new maps. There'll be some more new maps coming, I'm absolutely sure of it. There'll be some more characters coming, some more PvE-based characters coming, like the Carmines with all of their skills. And I'm sure in 6 months, 12 months, the game will be in a really, really good state. I would argue that probably Gears of War 5 will end up the best Gears of War game in terms of overall content, overall game modes. I'm sure it will do. They'll have a ton of game modes, a ton of skins, ton of customization options. It'll have the full escape mode experience, the full horde experience, a campaign, open world style campaign. It's going to have all the multiplayer you could want. It's probably going to have a working ranking system. But I'm always thinking about like the here and now, which I know is bad because obviously developers can't snap their fingers and make it here and now. I understand that. But I always worry that by the time Gears of War 5, or Gears 5 I guess I should call it, has got into that position, I'm always a bit skeptical, like, well, where are we? Where's the landscape? Because if it takes 1 year, 2 years to be perfect, the whole landscape could have changed. An example is, everybody was always trying to beat COD, right? How do you beat COD? COD's the best multiplayer. Best multiplayer, it's the most popular. Everyone wants to beat COD, right? How do you beat it? All of a sudden, a PvE game that was meant to be a farming game that got bought out by Tencent, got flipped, became a battle royale where you build, and then building became the main objective. Then all of a sudden it's Fortnite's the new king. You've got battle royales, boom, appearing out of thin air, and everybody then having a 2-year spread of desperately trying to compete to create the best, maybe even 3 years, the best battle royale. And maybe in a year or two, like Gears of War is perfect, but it's just left behind from all of these new console games, all of these new features that have come in. So I am critical, but I also am a bit, I guess today, sat back because sometimes I'm not, I can't lie to you, I'm an honest channel. I do feel like, what am I, like, where are we going with this? What am I doing? Even if I sat here for 500 hours a day, and we change minute things, change, like, say the little example. I don't like, we chatted about this yesterday on stream, I don't like hit markers. Now, I love the hit markers on the shotgun because the pellet spread tells me how much damage I've done. It's quite clear, it's visible, it's readable. If I brick him, I can push in. If I only clip him with 2 pellets, I'm like, alright, maybe I better play wider, go for a bigger shot. There's less gambling, and that's what I like. But having hit markers means that when somebody picks up a power weapon, when somebody's spraying you across the map through smoke, they just track your hit markers. It adds to the overpowered rifles. So I could sit here till I'm blue in the face and talk about how the current reload system's poor, how maybe we shouldn't have pistol hit markers through smoke, pistol hit markers in general, Lancer hit markers, but keep shotgun. And maybe after 3 weeks, 4 weeks of campaigning, it gets changed. But in the grand scheme of things, the game's going to still be the same. It's still going to be that non-gritty Gears of War style. And again, maybe it tweaks it ever so slightly down the line, but how long can we wait? So that's how I'm thinking going into this. Now, for me personally, yesterday, I hosted a Gears of War 1 event. I made some videos about it on YouTube, told you that I was going live. I streamed from about 10 a.m. till about 7 p.m. I played Gears for about 8 hours, streamed it all, and I'm going to make a video. So I want to say thanks to everybody that tuned in, and I want to say thanks to everybody as well. I would absolutely love it if you could tune into the frag vid style montage. I worked really hard on it. I edited it for about 20 hours, recorded all of the clips and used copyrighted music because I wanted to create a piece that takes you back to the day. If you want to find out more about it, I've written a big long description. You can read it for yourself, but I'd love it if you checked it out. And thank you to everybody that thumbs it up and commented. It's my most liked video in a long time, so do appreciate that. I've been continuing the grind. I know most people here are just purely YouTube people, but I'd love to sort of convert and move a few of you across to the world of Twitch. Yesterday, I guess I've been streaming 6 years. I shouldn't say that out loud because that means I'm a terrible streamer, but that's my most views I've ever achieved in 6 years. So thank you for all of that and all of the follows. And we're 140 away, 145 away if you want to follow, and we're at 142. So yeah, anyone that subs is greatly appreciated. We will begin the dev blog. So I think going into this isn't the PVE stream. There's a PvP, PvE. There's a lot of terminologies here. It's not the PvE stream. I do not believe that was cancelled. And I do kind of want to watch a PvE stream because I'm a bit more interested in that now.
Hello, everybody. I always have to come up from a lean, so it's never not awkward. Hi, everyone. And welcome to the latest Coalition developer stream here in Vancouver, BC. Doing a lean. And then down below is Dana, who is our Director of Communications, also known as Major Decision. How are you doing, Dana?
I'm good. I, too, am actually in the studio sitting at my desk.
Oh, yeah. We talked about on Twitter that we were going to address today, which was the Booshka that was mysteriously spotted in a certain trailer. And also, as kind of an apart to that, the MK2 Lancer that was also seen in the more recent Carmine trailer. Now, before the chat goes crazy, as we've talked about, if you didn't see my tweet already, do not expect some weird reveal or big thing. Don't be sitting on the edge of your seat right now. We're just going to explain all it is all about. Do you want to do that, Dana? What happened with that is basically we have a dev menu that lets you spawn in weaponry, and by default, because obviously we're building on Gears 4, that Lancer is the first thing when you hit spawn a Lancer, it spawns that. And so it's functionally exactly the same. It's just the model that loads in is different. So no, the MK2 is not coming as a skin. We're going to pass the idea along, but it wasn't an intentional tease, nor was it anything that we were trying to signal was coming. It's just one of those things that it's like a remnant of the past that snuck in.
I will say that initially there was potential that the Booshka was going to be added to Gears 5.
Yeah.
And it was in the game. It had no balance work had been done on it. It was just something that had been put in from the at the beginning, just as something that we're like, hey, we're gonna see about getting this in a future operation. Also have access to a dev build, and they just pulled out the Booshka and used it, and it just got missed as we were going and looking at the footage for the Operation 3 trailer.
Dev tools exist in all games. Obviously, they build the game and they get, what's the word? They get placed in. You can move stuff about. You can do camera angles. That's how you get the cinematics. By the way, side note, completely irrelevant to this, but I've said it since Gears 1. This game, what they should have put all of their effort into is for Gears 2, it should have had a Halo theatre mode. And theatre mode should have been standard for Gears because it just looks so good up close, and has so many cool shots like Superman's and Batman's, Spider-Man's, Hangman's, all the Man's, It's got so many good shots and so many cool moments. I'd have loved to have seen them like that. If I'd have been on the dev team in Gears 1 back in the day and they'd have told me Gears 2 was coming out, I'd have been like, listen, forget everything. The number one thing that needs to be in this game is a theatre mode. But, they don't really, I don't know. Montages aren't that big of a thing anymore, but just a side note. But yeah, it's an accident. It slipped in. I can understand the Lancer skin because somebody not so familiar might have just thought it's a Lancer skin, There's loads of skins in the game. This might just be another face paint, another different type of Lancer. It functions the same. But to miss the Booshka is kind of bad. Like, nobody from the team, before they pressed upload, not a single person went, yo, that gun's not even in the game. That is kind of bad, let's be honest. But in the heat of the moment, crunch time, you know, not being able to be in the studio together, not all communicating, it's really not that big of a deal.
I'm happy to report that the GGZII Arm Rip will be making its way into the game, and soon.
Okay. Well, soon sometime, yeah.
So it's you'll be able to earn that one or get it some way pretty soon. So don't worry, that was not one of those ones where it's like, oh, it's a piece of content that shouldn't be in there. So stay tuned for more information on that. But
we talked about this, I guess, every week, and I want to just say it again in case we get some new visitors. We would love, you know, I'm like seeing people on YouTube saying, oh, like add Drydock or Jacinto or Azura. Essentially, where we are with maps is maps take a long time to make. We've talked about this sort of rough 6-month time frame, and that isn't like make one map and then 6 months another map. It's just if you took the man hours of how much time it takes a team to make a map, it usually takes about 6 months. They would be working on multiple maps at the same time, because if you figure a level designer is working on one part of a map while the art team is working on a map that the level designers have already touched, so it moves around in that sort of scenario tiles. And now that we've reprioritized those resources away from tiles towards making more maps. So as much as we would love to drop more maps tomorrow, the addition of new maps is going to take time, but this is something you're going to see dividends coming in the future.
I think we've heard enough about maps till the dawn of time, so if there's any more map talk, I'm just going to get rid of it, because let's be honest, they're now working on maps. The maps are going to be coming. It's going to take time. That is the answer. They can reword it a million ways, but that is the answer. Yesterday I played Gears 1. Here's a little anecdote. I played Gears 1 and I played every single match in Ranked. And what was interesting about playing Gears 1 wasn't necessarily the gameplay, because I'm going to be honest, 30 FPS, my eyes couldn't deal with it. I'm useless on a controller these days. I found myself not getting bored because there was a variety of maps, right? So there was a ton of maps that I could keep changing, and that obviously made it fun. However, there's a couple things. The gameplay was, you know, obviously back in the day, the gameplay was really, really good. And that kept you entertained because there was a ton of skill in it. Loads of finicky, buggy, weird issues, right? But once you'd played enough hours, enough man hours, and you'd got through all of the grime and the dirt, and you sort of unveiled this like diamond where you could like play however you wanted to play. You could tell a guy that's played a lot of Gears versus a guy that hasn't, right? And even if there was only one map, the gameplay was that good that the games played out very, very differently every single time. Playing rooftops first to 10 is a completely different experience with everyone beaming the hammers in the spots, trying to get each other, people hiding in the buildings. That is a completely different experience to say when we played Tyro Station with people torpbowing each other. People, we played that on Annex, people trying to capture the Hammer of Dawn spot on the train track, everyone piling in and dying. And that was a completely different experience to play in Execution on canals, you know, where people are trying to snipe each other across the map. I always used to watch people play Call of Duty, and they used to get really hyped for map packs, and I used to think to myself, why do people get hyped for map packs? It's just Call of Duty. The game plays the same every map, no matter what you're on. You know, you shoot some people, you get a few kill streaks, you camp in a few spots, you try push a building with like a flashbang. That's how the game plays, regardless of what map you're on. What ended up happening with Gears 5 is people are getting so bored because the game plays out the same regardless of the map you're on because of the balance of the weapons, in my opinion. If you play on Foundation and you play on, I don't know, Lift, again, it's basically the same playstyle, just different blocks in different positions. The maps don't really change how you play the game, and the core gameplay is too similar. There's not enough difference between a top-end player and say a medium player that, again, everyone sort of ends up playing the same. So because everyone ends up playing very similar, kind of like Call of Duty where everyone's very similar in style because you can't really do too much, that you get bored of running around the same map and you want new maps, new experiences. So everyone's like clamoring for maps, and that's great. But I would just add the little caveat of, I would just say if we are going to have maps, let's get variety, and let's try that, because I think it's important that, again, we get across the message that maps are great. We all want to play on different maps, but if they're just another, basically a Vaskar but in a different shape, it's all going to play out the same anyway, and then people are going to quickly become bored of that map. Vaskar pops up, and there are 2 new maps in the rotation pop up, and the 2 new maps kind of very similar. You Lancer a bit, you Shotgun a bit, you run into the middle, capture the hill. They're all very similar. You then only vote for the map that you think does that style best. Okay, right, I want to Shotgun, Lancer a bit, and capture the middle. Which one of these 3 options does it the best? Boom. Right, Vaskar does it the best. Let's vote that. Those 2 new maps are shelved. And they always will be shelved. But if the new maps do something different, like say Panahu, or say a Rooftops, you can go, what am I in the mood for? Actually, I'm in the mood to do some Hammer of Dawn spots. I'm going to vote Rooftops. Actually, I'm in the mood to do a bit of rifling across the map. I'll vote Panahu. Actually, I want a bit more Shotgun. Let's go for Vaskar. Something like that. So I would say maps are great, but let's get the maps varied with a good theme.
Benjamin, why are you doing this to me? Liam, what's going on? Tell me about what's happening with that.
So this is part of that shift change that we talked about. So basically, it's kind of like one of those things where one of the things we heard loud and clear from the Versus community is, hey, look, I get that you want to do this hero stuff. I get that you want to do all this cool stuff for PvE and do all these abilities, but it has no application to us whatsoever. And especially if you don't play arcade, none of this stuff that you're saying is why you're holding characters back is applicable to me. Or even if it is, I wish you had more characters more often. And that's something we took to heart. And instead of I really should have won that fight. Instead of sticking to our guns on that, again, as part of the shift changing thing, we kind of went, well, okay, well, like, there isn't actually a really good excuse. Like, the reasoning behind it, in terms of making sure that it was clear what a character release was and what you could expect out of a character release and everything made sense. But there was, for the sake of clarity, there was also a ton of bad points for you guys in terms of what you were asking us for. And so we've decided to kind of listen to that, and instead of doing kind of, at the end of the day, we can't ship these characters with the, it's not like we've decided, oh, we're not going to invest in those PvE abilities or anything like that by doing this. It's just simply we're not holding character releases back for that. So just to be clear, this isn't a case of we could have, in some world, shipped the Carmines on time in this timeline with a whole bunch of PvE abilities and stuff like that. We wouldn't have been able to do that in time. No way. No way we could introduce 3 heroes, boom, instantly.
PvE hasn't been forgotten. They just chose to put the skins of the characters in the PvP, and then they're going to do the PvE later on, which makes complete sense. If the characters are done, why hold them for 3-6 months whilst they come up with the meta, what character they want Anthony Carmine to become, Benjamin Carmine to become in terms of PvE, what abilities do they want them to have, all this good stuff. Why withhold the PvP community? So they didn't. They just decided that when a character is ready, they'll put it in PvP, and then when it's ready for PvE, they'll put it in PvE. So they haven't delayed PvE. They haven't delayed it at all. They're just giving it earlier to PvP because all of the PvP components are done. So yeah, people are not understanding. They're not holding back PvE content. No. They're just bringing forwards PvP. Does that make sense? So it makes complete sense to me. I think that's a great answer, great decision.
Michael pointed out some specific tuning he discovered, because Michael was not the PvE lead at the start of Gears 5 launching. With Master, that kind of makes the kind of jump from Inconceivable to Master dramatic and not necessarily in a good way. And we'll talk about all that in the details in the notes. I don't want to talk about any kind of specific numeric values or anything at this point until they've done that. That's for them their runway to land the plane on. But I will say that character viability, making it so that you can just play kind of the kind of thing you feel like, and also that Master, to make it a little bit less of a kind of crazy, super specific meta is the only thing that works experience.
What I hope they do here is I hope they bring the PvP characters up, meaning I hope Marcus, Mac, all of these characters that might not be, maybe even Emil, maybe these characters that aren't quite the top meta characters, I hope they make them better, a lot better, rather than making Masters weaker. I still haven't beaten the new Hive on Masters. It's difficult. It's really, really difficult. In fact, I think some of the spawns are broken. It's the hardest Hive I've ever done on Masters. If anybody wants to help me out, please let me know in the comments below. But I like that difficulty level. The issue is there's only certain characters that are good at that difficulty level. What I don't want them to do is make the Masters easier, although some things should be looked at, like the claws. The claws are just ridiculous. Shielded Scions can just be outrageous. There's a few things that are just crazy. Yeah, they could be tweaked, but what I would prefer is if other things were brought up, because yeah, I don't want them to make the game easier. I would prefer them just to make the other characters more useful, so when I load into a Hive, I can go, right, what character do I want to play here? I want to play Marcus. I think always naturally they're going to have an advantage. Like if the Hive's got explosive crates, then somebody with explosive damage is probably going to be better, but right now there's too much of a gap between who's good and who's bad at a Hive. Like it's either like, right, this is the character you need, everyone else is useless. So if we could bring that level up, that would be really good. That'd be a great change. Also, yeah, a Horde Frenzy would be great if that could come to custom games. I'd love to host some Horde Frenzy. That was one of the things I was excited for in Operation 3. It still hasn't launched. I would really like to look at that. Also, people like this in the chat, 28_G, look at that ping, lol. Yeah, the reason we have bad ping, I'm in the game, is we're from the EU. We're connecting to Octus, who's hosting in Vancouver, or wherever the American server is. That's not TC's problem. That's because everyone's basically from EU. So when people are like, lol, this game's bad, look at the ping, like, have some context, like, come on.
Has been worked on for a very, very long time from their standpoint. So it's something that we don't even have the option to use it because it's owned by Activision. It's not something that is being fostered, is being shared out, or anything along those lines. So this wasn't a...
Right, so Game Battles is gone, but are PC players allowed to play? I'm not saying there's going to be any points on the line or whatever. Just let PC players play. Like, even if it's PC versus PC, like, there's literally no way for me to play. The only person I can play is against basically one team, and I just don't want to play against them. It's just not my experience I want in my life. So if we could just play game battles or something, like just private 1v1s, 2v2s, like we used to do, like, it feels really bad as a PC player that you just completely ignored. I know we can't compete in a major tournament, so maybe there's no point in it, but there used to be just a fun ladder. Can there not just be a one, like on Gears of War's system, can there not just be a 1v1 ladder that has like just a winner at the top? Yeah, they don't get any prize money, it's just like a whatever ladder, but it's just a way to play 1v1 sweat games or something. I just like the old ladder system of game battles.
Well, exactly. Toby's like, game battles is incredibly popular for Call of Duty. Well, if you connect the dots on who owns Call of Duty and who owns game battles, then that's how it works. So this is a scenario by which, even if we wanted to work, even if we wanted to be on game battles, it wasn't even an option. So we didn't really kind of talk too much about it. So stay chill. I see you keep asking us about when do you get the old reload system back. I'm not sure what you're asking for in that scenario. Can you give me context around the reload system about what exactly you're looking for?
Alright, I'll do some context around the reload system. I'll keep it short because I could make an entire video about this. Basically, it used to be that when you reloaded, you had to choose between wasting ammo and gaining power. So if you shot all your bullets into a wall, you had two opportunities, right? So you had two things. You've wasted all of your bullets, that's a negative point. Obviously, you've got less bullets. You have now, one, got to time when are you going to use that active reload. That active reload only lasts for a short period. So do you backpack the weapon? Do you shoot off your sniper, swap, backpack it, and then when you think the guy's going to push you, you take it out, instantly active reload and down them. There's a couple layers to that. You've got to know when to backpack it. You've got to know when to take it out, when to actually use the active, and you've also got to hit it. Also, you've got to, after you've hit the active, meaning if you don't hit the active, it jams, it's gone, you're going to have to waste another bullet. You've also then got to hit the player with it to make use of it, right? So there's a lot of techniques. When to backpack the weapon, when to waste your ammo, when to reload the ammo, when to take it out to do the active, hit the active, and then land the shots with the actives, right? The problem now is you can always active reload without wasting bullets. If you miss your active, you can reactive it instantly. And it's up every, what feels like, is it like 6 seconds on the Lancer or something? So basically, every bullet is just going to be active. Do you pick up a boom shot? If you can, you should always just wait. Active reload the boom shot. Your first boom shot's going to be an active. It's going to have like double splash damage. It's going to be crazy. So there's no punishment, you know? Like sometimes some guy will spray all his Lancer, he'll backpack it, you'll push him on gears 1 or 2 or whatever, he'll take it out, reload it, and because you're flying at him, he might panic and jam it. In this game, it's just like, alright, reload again, get the active. It's just it also means because there's 5 people doing this, there's also obviously 1 whole extra player with potentially actives, but with 5 people having actives every 6 seconds, basically every bullet that hits you in Gears 5 is basically actived. It should be anyway. There should be no reason for your initial drop shot to not be an active or your initial boom shot to not be an active. The only reason it shouldn't be is if you've had to panic shoot it. Otherwise, you should wait, ideally. So yeah, there's just too much. There's too much. It's not that it's casual, it's that it removes a layer of depth, and that someone might mistake that as casual. I wouldn't really say having... It's hard to balance the two. Making something have less depth doesn't automatically mean they're trying to make it casual. I think they just haven't understood what the old active system gave. Maybe no one's ever spoke to them about it, but yeah, I don't like the new system of just sat in the... You sat in the hut in district, you're in juice bar, you're in ticket bar, and you just, right, active, right, check in, I'm in the juice bar, right, there's nobody, my actives ran out, right, active again, check in, like, and you're not wasting any bullets. It can be a bit obnoxious.
Master or all modifiers on, is there much longer we can wait until we restart a hive with Iron Man on without having to go back to the lobby and reload the hive?
Alright, so before he answers this, I want to say this is the #1 problem for me playing Escape. I don't get annoyed at dying in Escape. I've played Sekiro, I've played these games that are difficult. I'm okay with dying and restarting from the beginning. I'm cool with that. What's really annoying is the load screen. Now me, as a PC user, I don't really have a load screen. However, everyone I play with that plays Escape is an Xbox user, and I have to sit there for forever waiting for them to load. And people like Stotty that I talk to on Xbox, he hates having to wait for that loading screen, and it is possible to do because there have been masters without Iron Man that just instantly restart you from the beginning, and you don't have to watch that annoying cutscene. The problem is you have this really long load screen, then you have this irritating cut screen that you've watched like 28 million times, and you're just like, like this is not great, is it? You know, it's not a great situation. So the load screen for me is a super big problem, and I thought it was to do with, well, you know, consoles don't have SSDs, but then I played a Hive on Master without the Iron Man mod, and it threw me back to the start, so it must be a technical issue. So let's hear what Octus has got to say on this matter. Also, I'm not doing too bad for like 160 ping. You know, I've got 6 limbs, most limbs in the game. Put some respect on the name.
Something that seems to want to do, I'm not sure it's a priority compared to when we first talked about that, given where the development effort's going right now, but it is on our list of something we want to do. Also, one of the things we've been talking about is the placement of the Iron Man modifier in Horde matchmaking. That's feedback that we've passed along to the team and they're thinking about. That Iron Man modifier, as an interesting subject, was put in for a very specific reason, and that's because basically what was found by the team in the data of Gears 4 is that when a... I screwed up, I was half thinking. What was found in the Gears 4 data was when a team failed in Horde, it was very unlikely they finished if they were in matchmaking. So what would happen is they'd fail a wave, and then they'd restart, and they'd probably fail again, and then they'd basically quit. So the reason that modifier was put there was actually because it was meant to be a way of going like, okay, well, if you fail, then the game ends, and you don't have this weird kind of end where like some people want to stick it out and some people don't. And that was the thinking behind it, the mythology behind it. It's technically correct, but we understand from experience it's kind of like a bit odd at times, especially if you're not a group that has that mentality. And it's feedback that we hear a lot, so it's with the team and something they're looking at, and who knows, I don't have anything to share today, but it's definitely something that they're aware. Commonly we hear back on as, hey, I wish this was different.
The dropping frames in multiplayer, that has been flagged to the team. We talked about that last week. That is something that the team is looking into. The repro is proving to be tricky on that one. So it is, I've heard reports of people that they say that it's connected to their gamertag profile.
Yeah, and then watch GGZII solve the issue up above. Are you ready for this?
And that they've actually made a new gamer tag and it's fixed the issue. Obviously, that's fraught with a whole bunch of problems and so on and so forth around that in terms of moving your content over. But the team, it's been flagged to the team and we are looking into that. So that is something that, I'm not saying that's what the cause is or that issue. I'm just saying I've heard people say that that's how they've got it to fix it, but it is something that we're trying to sort out.
Yeah, and someone in the chat say,
not promising anything, but just saying, kind of.
By the way, I'm seeing people talking about the Lancer. Change is coming.
What does that mean? What does that mean? Change is coming? Is that good? Is that bad? I don't know what that means. Change is coming to the Lancer, apparently.
Email's more thick. Oh. That makes me laugh.
So Octus says that the Lancer changes are coming. And what's always worrying about the Gears of War Sea Mollusk community with the IQ of a small mollusk is there are some people that do feedback. There are some people that really think the Lancer's very weak and really go out in big steps to defend their viewpoint, and that's great. I'm not saying I'm right or I'm wrong. I'm just saying I like when people defend their viewpoints. It's interesting to listen to. And then you get some people that defend their viewpoints and they say, the Lancer is weak. You might as well shoot a water gun. And I'm just like, what game is this person playing? And when their team says the Lancer's going to be changed, and then they don't announce any information, I'm like, who are we listening to here? Is it the guy that thinks the Lancer is a water gun, or is it the guy that thinks the Lancer is a high-pressure police cannon that's going to blast you onto the floor? You know, what kind of water gun are we dealing with? What changes are coming? That's always been the worry about the Gears community. There is just polar opposites. Like, no.
I know that the reason why Kenny plays with Anya now,
yeah,
or
I think
Mira,
didn't
is
have
because it was smaller hitboxes and he just learned with that. So
yeah, it must be Gears 4.
So anyways, so to answer the question about the hitboxes are uniform across all characters, and so they were there. There is one thing, and I've seen a few people sneaky added a tweet about it yesterday about saying that if you're coming off cover, you the range is a bit longer. And then Kyle from last week's esports tournament posted a shot about him thinking he chunked somebody right as they were coming in. And basically what we've got is, and this was this thing that we put inside of the game with Op3, I believe, the TU and that takes into compensation of a little bit of an expectation of where the character is going to be. And I should actually bring up the thing that Jeannie wrote so I can say this correctly. But what it was doing is there was a bug with it, and this is what Liam mentioned in a What's Up a little while ago, where it made the range of the Gnasher extend out a little bit, so it felt like it was longer. So one of the things that we did is we took that off because it felt like it extended the range of the Gnasher beyond what people were satisfied with. So we're trying to find a way to balance out to fix that bug so that there isn't that sense of somebody is going to get chunked at a weird range where that compensation is. So that's something that we're looking at, and hopefully we'll have an update around what that is. And I didn't give a great explanation of that, Liam. I don't know if you have anything.
So it kind of misconstrue into problems, right? The clip was to get you into my. Are you ready? You ready for some high level clips? Because I can't remember the clip. The clip was literally this: he's in the icebound window, and there's a block in front of him like this, right? The character slides into the block, and his character, he's sat here, right? This is his character, right? And he shoots right now. So on his screen, he's shot just before this character has hit the wall. Okay? Just before he hits the wall. The reason he's done that is because if he waits for this character to hit the wall, and then from here, he shoots over the cover at him, this player 1, will slide in and just blow him away instantly with no time to react. If he gets to this block and he moves in like this, and he waits again, he'll be blown away. If he shoots a tiny bit too early, he's technically outside of gib range, and when he shoots, he gets a full spread, so he gets all the pellet spreads he wants, right? Blah, blah, blah. He gets all the pellet spread, and then he does about 87, and then the guy completes his slide and then re-blows him away. That's not really to do with gib calculation in my mind. That's more to do with the fact that the slide speed's so ridiculously fast that you have to start preemptively shooting, and you cannot wait for people to hit cover in this game. So being the better player and being sat here and knowing there's a player coming and knowing they're going to slide and knowing the exact movement they're going to do, you can't wait for them to hit to cover, so you have to basically gamble at what point you think they're going to hit cover, because if they're here in the animation of their slide, they won't die. You have to wait till they hit cover, and then it's gib range. So people were saying that the solution to this is basically to up the gib range, right? Give it some plus range on the gib. Wrong. Because then the same problem will occur. He'll just, instead of shooting here for a gib, right, and getting it, and then you up it, and all of a sudden he shoots here, if you up the gib, the player that's also sliding hasn't upped gib range. So then he can just slide in, not touch the wall, blow you up. Or, because the gib range is bigger, he then thinks, right, this is where I can now kill him, this distance. The player then goes to shoot, and he misjudges it, and he shoots him here. It doesn't, upping the gib range doesn't remove the misjudging of a gib. It just increases the problem. If the map was 500 foot big and your gib range was 499 foot, people would be spawning and trying to shoot just as they enter into the map and trying to gib each other. It wouldn't, and people would still sponge. So for me, the solution is for the melee, for the gib range to be point blank melee range. Then there's no guessing. The guy has to be in your face. And also slowing down the speed you slide into cover, because it's just too mental right now. It's just wham in gib. It's not very good. So I understand there's a bug where the gib range is miscalculated due to momentum, due to a whole other variety of things. But I think what the pro player was specifically talking about was the fact that he's the better player. I know the guy's going to slide into cover and I'm still dying. That's frustrating. I think that's what he was trying to say. And people again were saying, well, up the gib range. I don't think it necessarily changes the problem. I think the problem is inherently the wall cancel, the speed of the game. It's got so fast, there's so many cancels, there's so many things you can do, that basically the only option you have in many occasions is just to gamble on what the other guy's going to do and blow them away before they do it. So
you want to add to that, but that's kind of roughly where we are with it. That for everybody that says do this,
yeah, I see a lot.
85%, 85%, 85%. Why do point blanks give 85%? This is the
oh god,
Shawnee flip, Shawnee 11P. That's exactly what I was just talking about. What feels like a point blank is it has to do with the momentum that somebody's coming at someone.
What Dana needs to say there is, if you are getting 85%, you fucking moron, you are not shooting in gib range. You will never ever get 85% if you shoot somebody in the gib range. You just won't. It doesn't happen. People laugh, but this is the most consistent shotgun that's ever been put in a Gears game. The problem is the fact that the animation speeds in the servers aren't good enough. But if you played this on LAN and people stood still in gib range, you will never ever ever get 85%. You just won't. The only chance you get 85% is if you've missed pellets and then you've missed your shot, so it's obviously not going to kill him. If you land your pellets inside of gib range, they will die, and people not understanding this are the same people that think the issue is the gib and the shotgun, and they think the solution is to buff the gib range. Again, if you have a shotgun that gibs people from 50 foot, right? Anything within, say it's a conal spread like the old sword off, anything within 50 foot gets one shot and it covers the entire map, right? People will try and shoot that gun at 51 foot, at 50.2 foot, because they're trying to get in and out of that gib range and shoot and then not get blown up. Buffing the gib range doesn't stop the problem of people trying to guess the gib range. That doesn't solve the problem. Again, for me, removing the guesswork is the answer, and slowing down certain animations and certain cancel potentials is the better solution. Like sliding into a wall, mantling, cancel mantle, reaction shotting out of your ass isn't Gears of War to me. This is it, right? Are you ready? This is the game since the dawn of time, since Gears 2, since the game went from Gears 1 to Gears 2 and people had a forum to give input because you didn't really have one on Gears 1 at all. Everyone wants the game to be catered to them. I get it. But I'm talking about the long-term health of the game. I think the shorter gib range is better, right? But you watch. Dana's trying to say, listen, if we shrink the gib range, loads of people will be happy. Loads of people will probably not understand it, will hate it. You've got Tony Campwell in the chat. He wants the gib range to be reduced so you don't have to hold your shot, so you can fire off multiple shots. Domes, keep the game the same as it is. I remember Domes, was it a few patches ago, wanted plus 20% range on the pre-buffed, so the buffed gib range, remember it's been nerfed a bit now, the pre-buffed, he wanted 20% on top, so he likes the fast, I think he's like I think I see him on Twitch, I see his titles like Wall Bounce, he must be like a wall bouncer, he likes his big gib ranges. There are people that obviously want the gib range short. You're not going to keep everybody happy, and this is what I've always said, Gears of War needs a leader. It needs a leader at the team to stand up and go, listen, this is the game, you know? This is the game we want to make. We want to make it a short gib range to increase shotgun battles, to make people have to think about their movement a bit more, or the opposite way. Whichever way they decide to do, right? You know, it's their right as a dev to choose that. You know, but there needs to be somebody that says, listen, this is what we're doing. Example, if I went into Counter-Strike, I could sit there and get every single person to argue that, having no scopes on guns and having to aim with just a dot across the map it's a legacy thing. No, every gun has scopes these days. That we want bigger maps. I want scopes. I don't think it's right that we have to shoot this weird little crosshair across the map. Can we get scopes, more scopes in the game? Right? But no, the Valve, the devs will go, listen, this is Counter-Strike, this is the game we want to make. If you don't like it, don't play it, but this is the game we're making. Whereas I feel like Gears of War has got into this very odd situation all the way, not these devs, all the way since Gears 2. They've tried to cater to everybody, and they've ended up catering to nobody. They're constantly in no man's land. And I think there's such a good game there. There is such a good game under the hood that I just wish they would just go for it. And I wrote the article in like 2012, Gears of War, why didn't they run with it? They had such a fantastic idea. They should have ran with it, ran to the hills with it, got a theatre mode, up the competitive scene. Fix some of the irritating issues, the bugs, the glitches, added more maps, sorted out the modes, and it would have been brilliant. Instead, we've ended up still, to this day, we're in this situation where half the people want rapid up-A boost speeds. They've even spoke last dev blog, they want the up-A speed boost to happen and to be coming more quickly. But yet here they are talking about how Octus is saying we've heard feedback that actually I've heard more people wanting the gib range to be lowered than buffed. So they're probably going to keep it the same, because there's a few people want it lowered, a few people want it buffed. They'll probably keep it the same to keep everybody mediocre. And that's the problem. Everybody in Gears of War gets mediocre. So the game's always, in my opinion, mediocre. Now, I think the game's amazing, but in terms of what I think it can be, it's mediocre. It's mediocre in its ability to reach its potential, should I say. So, yeah, I think the game's always had this issue where it doesn't know who to listen to, and it needs somebody to just stand up and go, we are changing the game, we're creating the game that we've always wanted Gears to be. Are you with us or are you not? Whereas now it's like, please come with us, we'll do this, oh, we'll also do this. And it kind of is like, right, well, the people that want up close shotgunning aren't happy. The people that 87%ers aren't happy. Add Gnasher only to ranked. You know, there's just always this different opinion, and it's impossible. So what they need to do is just decide what do they want the game to be and run with it, honestly. We go. Are you ready? You cannot see me in that clip, can you? You just cannot see me, right? You even saw his reaction. That was an unedited reaction, right? He even let out a little bit of rage there. I even got the horse's head on. Are you ready? Look.
Yeah, I don't.
So if you go to this, right, I watched the stream and I snuck up and I waited to kill Octus. Now, you cannot see me in that block, can you? He just looked at that block. You cannot see me, and that's my point, is you cannot see people when you hide in cover. And it promotes hiding camping, and that's not Gears of War. No matter what cover you were on in Gears 1, you could always see there, maybe their gun was sticking up, there was a ridged back that you could see but you couldn't shoot. And in Gears 5, I remember very, very early on I mentioned this point, and the dev said they lowered the backs and they removed the guns off the backs because new players were shooting the back, were shooting the gun, and not understanding why they weren't killing them. That's an example of nuance being removed out of the game and creating it a more rounded game, a game that makes more sense. People would say that's casual, but I'm saying a game that makes more sense. Right, we're only going to show bits of the character that are visible. That does make sense. However, it creates problems sometimes where you round the edges off. You know, you get rid of all the janky old Gears of War issues and you round the edges off and you make a modern game. You create other problems like this. And I'm hiding in cover. Octus cannot see me, and I blow him away with a back A across the map. And that's the problem. Like, sometimes they've modernized the game, which is great, but it's lost some of that things, and it needs to be brought back. Now, they could raise the backs up. It could be that if a character's sat in, they really glow red so there's no camping. I don't think you should ever be getting camped on in Gears of War. That's not what it's about. Not for me anyway. But yeah, I just thought I'd showcase that clip.
And she wore a giant hat made out of fruit.
I swear I'm blind today. How did I checked that and didn't see that logo. I'm deaf when I play on.
And you know, Octus is like, oh, I must have been blind. You're not. It was literally me intentionally hiding behind a piece of cover to kind of prove that there was 5 cog there. They can't even see me.
So, yeah, so basically all that would happen, I was going to show it to you, and then I actually tried and still failed, like, basically you would do that thing. You remember, everyone remembers this. You go on gridlock, you're running towards Sniper Tower, and you're like shooting the ground, you roll, you shoot the ground, you roll, you shoot the ground, you roll, and you get your 3 pre-actives, right? It's basically in the game to stop that, because at the end of the
Right, exactly. This is what I'm talking about. Sometimes when you nerf something or alter something to be more fluid, more modern, you lose some of the nuance that makes a good player become a great player. A brand new player at Gears of War is not going to pick up the controller, shoot, roll, and get, say, 20 active bullets. I was doing this yesterday on Gears 1 when I was pushing Snipe Tower. They're not going to end. You end up with about 20 active bullets. Then when you land at the Snipe Tower, you're slightly delayed, but you have an active reload. You then land your active reload and shoot it. But that's the payoff. You arrive slightly slower. You have to do some mechanics to get that, and you also have to hit the active reload. If you run up an active reload and jam it, you then cannot shoot at the enemy team and they will grab the sniper for free. These are examples, and again, these are where I think we're missing the mark, of things that might look silly, might sound daft, but they do add a lot to the game. Again, you know, the idea that you can just sit inside district building and Lancer and get 60 bullets. All right, nobody turned up. 60 more active bullets. All right, 6 seconds have passed. Boom, 60 more bullets or whatever it is. 30 more, 40 more, however many is in the damn Lancer at this point. 40. You know, you can't. You shouldn't be able to do that. And I think, like, in terms of making the game more fluid, more modern, they've lost a bit of it, and it's actually broken it. Like, yes, people used to shoot the wall with an active shotgun, but this is my point, right? I don't even think the game should have actives in. Just remove the actives in general. That would be ideal, and then balance the game around the fact there's no actives. But I do kind of like the way that actives are in the game, because it is a skill, but I do also dislike the way that actives are in the game, because you can't tell if somebody's got an active. If you look at somebody and they've got a Lancer, you don't know if they've got 40 active Lancer bullets or just regular bullets, so that's a problem. So in an ideal world, you just remove actives, yes, but if they're going to keep the actives, I don't like the idea of being permanently able to active reload. And yeah.
Like, that's what everyone did. Everyone wanted to go into fights optimizing by wasting bullets and firing it. So it's just taking out a gameplay loop that people were doing anyway and just making it something that you can just do whenever, rather than like being like, before you get into a fight, okay, I'm trying to show this off, guys, come on. But like, you know what I mean? It's like, that's why the change was made. And at least from the team, I haven't heard about anyone trying to go back from that. However, we are looking at some general active changes in terms of normalization soon.
Yeah.
But it won't be like that.
What's up, Reem? You're trying to host us? Thank you. Reem, everybody's in the chat.
So yeah, I get it, you know, technically it's a gameplay loop they've removed, but gameplay loops are there for experienced players. Like, it might get repetitive and annoying, but I don't think it should have just been straight removed without thinking about the consequence of giving, like he said, we wanted to just give it to everybody. So that is a straight up casualization. I don't often say that TCR casualizing the game, but that is a casualization. They removed a gameplay loop where someone had to think about when to shoot the wall. Because if you're sat shooting your wall and get pushed, you're dead. If you shoot your full Lancer clip off to get the active and then jam it, you can't even shoot. And you've also wasted the ammo. So if you were in juice bar, let's say you had 180 bullets, you fire off your 60 on Gears 1 and you jam it, you've now got 120. Now, do you want to shoot the next clip off for actives and potentially lose 60 and only be left with 60, and then you might not have enough for the remainder of the round? Or do you just want to now go back to regular? So there's always like a little bit of as a trade-off, whereas now there's not much trade-off for anything. It's just handed to you.
Like, I personally am pro for it, but like, if you step back, like, seeing a dude shooting the floor in a game before they go into a fight to activate a mechanic is just weird. Like,
disagree. Every game mechanic's weird. Seeing a Counter-Strike player that's meant to be shooting at, you know, it's terrorist versus CT, right? Seeing a guy stood still at the top of dust looking at a pixel of a skybox to throw a smoke through and land the smoke looks dumb. You know, having somebody run backwards whilst they flash themselves and have their team, you know, like some people throw 6 flashes over a building. I watched it yesterday in a Counter-Strike professional game, and the guys were that confident their teammates were going to flash. They all ran through longside Dust 2, all looking at the floor. Now, seeing an entire enemy team run forward looking at the floor looks dumb, but sometimes dumb mechanics make sense. It's a video game. We're not after hyper-realism. To say it looks stupid seeing people shoot the wall to activate a mechanic is like saying, oh, we removed it because it's dumb. Well, does wall bouncing not look dumb? Does, you know, somebody roadie running hunched over not look dumb? Like, I don't think you can use that, like, sort of... Yeah, I don't think we can use realism as a term for removing a game mechanic. Not in Gears of War, anyway. I was on to say that we have maybe lowered a few of the things and had criticism for that, but it's still an incredibly difficult game to play, and I don't think anybody would say Gears is easy. I don't. But it's just that little chip away of those 1 to 2% that have annoyed everybody, I guess. There are different games on console that are very, very tough. You could argue Overwatch. Now, I'm talking about the PC version, but I imagine even the Xbox version is the same. People playing certain metas, compositions, timing abilities. That is just as much as difficult as Gears mechanics in other ways, you know. Different games have different skills in different areas. For me, Gears of War always used to be about shooting and moving. Now I'd say it's more pure accuracy. Your movement doesn't really get you too far because the guns are so strong, the time to kill so strong. So I would say nowadays your movement in Gears isn't as important. Your map knowledge isn't as important as the maps aren't as good. You don't have to time weapons anymore. You know, you can tag a grenade. There's lots of little things, but then you could argue that's a skill on the other side, having to read where the grenades are, blah, 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 etc. So I think you can argue till you're blue in the face, is the game skilled or not? I think we can agree that the game is pretty damn skilled. I think people just get frustrated that it's been slightly casualized, and like we say, a few of those jagged edges of Gears 1, 2, even 3, they've been rounded off to make a nice product, but you've kind of lost something. But, you know, the game has bigger problems than balance. I've always said this. You can check back on older videos. I've always said that the main problem with the game is, 1, there is still certain regions that can't play the game without lagging. 2, the ranking system's awful. 3, there's not enough maps. We're now getting enough characters. We're getting there. Ranking system doesn't work, and there's general overall balance does matter to a degree. What I mean is, yes, me hammering on about a tiny 1% pixel doesn't matter, you know, in the grand scheme of things. But what I will say is balance does matter generally, because I will say that Gears has become way more rifle based. I think TC would even say that themselves, that it's definitely more optimized for rifles than say a Gears 1, 2, even 3. Most of the new weapons are rifle-y type of guns, marksers, stuff like that. It's hard to word really. Like, I think you could go till you're blue in the face and argue about tiny percentages of balance, but the reality is, most people just want to hop online, find games, play with the mates, and shoot some stuff, and that's where the balance comes in, where I feel like, I'm not talking top-end balance, I'm talking general balance. It's still too rifle-heavy for people to hop on and have fun. Meaning, if you want to hop on Gears 5 right now, you're generally going to be rifling, shotgunning a bit. So if you're going to be generally doing that, you may as well play Modern Warfare. The Modern Warfare, you rifle a bit, you shoot a bit, you shotgun a bit, you get up close with some snake shots. Like, there's not that much difference. And if the balance right now is kind of like, is it worth learning an entire new game? I was talking to somebody yesterday, they were thinking about learning Gears, and I said, honestly, it's not really worth your time putting all the effort into learn Gears of War, when after it all is said and done, you're going to be playing very similar to COD anyway. You're going to be coming on, you're going to be taking cover and moving because you've got used to the movement system, but generally you're going to be shotgunning people like you're playing Reaper, or like you're on Modern Warfare with a shotgun, and then you're going to be rifling. That's kind of the game. It's not wildly different anymore. It doesn't merit the learning curve. I guess that's what I'd say. That's where Gears of War for me is kind of messed up, is it's a really difficult game. Don't get me wrong, listen, it's a really difficult game. If there's any devs watching or anybody, I'm not saying the game's easy. Gears is a really hard game to play. But it's fallen into this trap where it's really hard to play, and once you've learned all of the mechanics, and once you've got through all of that, you know, whatever struggles of learning movement and all that, you end up playing kind of just like COD anyway these days. You know, gross exaggeration, obviously it's not like Call of Duty, but you know what I mean. It's kind of that rifle-y, shotgun-y type of play that's in most games these days anyway, like Fortnite's all rifle shotgun, isn't it? These days, like shooting a shotgun on Fortnite and trying to land 3 shots on somebody, or 1 bomb in them, is just the same as doing it on Gears 5. It is, really. I know people laugh at that, but it really is. You just put the reticule on the guy and shoot. There's no real dancing or strafing or mind games anymore in Gears, and there isn't in Fortnite or COD. You just see the guy with a shotgun, you put it on them and you shoot. And I guess that's how I'd sum it up, is the game's really, really difficult to learn, and after you've got through it all and you've learnt it all, it ends up playing out very similar to all the other games, so people just can't be bothered to put up with it. They're like, oh, is this it? Like, I remember Dr. Disrespect playing, and he got a few shotgun kills, he learnt to aim his reticule with his mouse, and he was like, oh, is this it? Like, I put the shotgun on them, shoot a few times, they go down, or I kill them. He was kind of like, is this what all the fuss is about? Is this what I've been learning? Because that's kind of the way it is. There is no nuance these days. There's no mind games, no high-level shotgun dancing. It is just very much point-and-click accuracy. So I guess that's how I'd word it. That's it, really. That's all there is to the devblog. Hopefully you enjoyed it. I was going to think of something to say there, but I couldn't. Yeah, so that's generally my thoughts on the game right now. I think that's how I'd kind of word it. Gears is a very, very hard game to learn, very hard game to play, and at the end of it, after all that's said and done, you end up kind of just playing like every other generic shooter, and a lot of people just think, it's not worth the time. Like Dr. Disrespect was kind of like, alright, I kind of do a bit of wall bouncing, I kind of like take cover, shoot some people, but at the end of the day, I'm just pointing the reticule on someone's head and shooting them. What's the big fuss about? Where as the game used to be like a lot more dancing and stuff, but that's minute balancing, and I don't think minute balancing is gonna, I guess, fix the game. They just need to get the maps down, the ranking system down, and maybe a tiny bit of balancing, but that's it. And that's all that's been said over these past couple of dev blogs, is that's just a waiting game. We just have to sit and wait, and just wait for the maps to come out, wait for the fixes, you know, stuff like Octa saying the Lancer's been tuned but didn't give any information, so I don't know what that means. So right now, I guess, guys, we're just in a waiting game. Thank you for all the support. We've got a new content goal for this month, so if you've enjoyed the montage that I produced, if you've enjoyed the tactics videos I'm doing, or anything like that, and you want to support the content, and you know, that's the best way to do it, to be honest. You can like and comment. If you want to subscribe on Twitch, we've had at the moment, it says 16 subs, but we've actually had 23. I need to update that. We've had 23 subs. I'd love it if we could get some more subs to the YouTube channel and to the Twitch channel. That'd be great. Welcome some Sicarios in. So last videos I've done, Carmine trailer, reaction, review, what's up, all the Gears Tactics Act 1, Masters, free-for-all video, netcode screen difference, my hilarious what online multiplayer really sounds like, more Lancer update tuning. So in the past month, or I guess the past week, if we want to talk about this month's content, to be fair to you, in the past 2 weeks we've done 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18 videos. So if you've enjoyed those videos and you want to support, like, comment, subscribe, support the content goals, subscribe on Twitch, all that good stuff. Thanks for tuning in. I look forward to hearing your feedback in the comments below. As you know, I try to be really active on the channel. I read all your comments and I try to reply to as many as I can. So do write your essays in chat. I do read them. I do enjoy reading them. So yeah, comment below.